Well, I never saw the original, and it was a musical, and it was different than what we're making. And so sometimes it's like, well, since I'm not really making that, maybe I really shouldn't influence my thinking and like, oh, this would be better if it was musical, if it was not. So I basically didn't bother to see it. Well, I like just going in fresh. It's something I learned from Martin Scorsese, although he watches many movies over and over again. If there's an idea that's similar to what he's doing, he doesn't really want to get influenced by it. And I understand that, because now all of a sudden now you have a mental image on something that wasn't your own creative mental image. It was the mental image of something that was done before you. And sometimes you don't want that. Sometimes you want a fresh approach. I may see it one time. I heard people love it, so and they compare this movie a lot to it. So I may have to go and see what we did. I'd be very curious to see if we naturally fell into what was done, and what part of it was successful, and what part did we, borrow or pay an homage to. I know we did some homages to the film, some of the musical numbers and things like that, but. We did look at a lot of Disney movies and got a kind of a tactile feel of what they were going for back in the day, and the multiplane cameras, and trying to get this extra realism into it, and rotoscoping certain characters and things like that. So I did do that part, and we did pay an homage to that and a payoff to that as well. Especially in particular Bambi, for some reason. There was this whole multi-plane camera system that they set up to actually create these, views going through the forest. And John got particularly enamored with that and loved that the way it felt, and we wanted to do something like it. So what we did, in contrast to, is that we created the whole opening of the Disney castle in this multi-plane feel. Literally made it on the computer to imitate exactly the multiplaning. So we did all of that, and then we blended that into what would be the modern day Bambi version, which is we're doing in photorealistic CG. So it blends from the castle to this. So when you see the film, it'll make sense. And then we showed off both things. Here's gives you a familiarity with what the past was and an honor of what the past was. And it's kind of fun to see the castle with hand animated fireworks and various things like that. Kind of gets you into the Disney mode. And then you see now what the state of the art is in CG or computer graphics and all that. And we created a 3D move to rival what the feeling must have been when they saw the first time a multiplane shot in Bambi. Well, the whole sort of photorealism and then sort of the under-the-top version of what photorealism is, it's like when you go out and photograph something, you do have a schedule. You shoot in a day, and you do a whole scene. The sun changes between every shot. You grab as much coverage as you can, and there's a little bit of the happy accident, the shaking camera, the various things that you tend to use over and over again that you would have fixed on the day. This guy is just eating away with his bag of whatever. At any rate, it was sort of just very distracting.
You were saying you get some lucky happy accidents.
Yes, you get some lucky happy, and then you cut them together, and it has this kind of raw life to it. What a real film has, it has a raw life to it that gets stamped out on a computer because it has to be a happy accident. You have to put that in to feel the same thing you get from live. So we tended to put all those things in, all those things that we get that we don't necessarily want, but we live with, but then like what we're living with. So there was that. And then any kind of photorealism we were going for, where we didn't make the skies artificially beautiful, or didn't do a kind of a Photoshop treatment on every shot and say, well, we can make everything golden and this and that. And we just shot it like it was a real movie, and we did the best we could with it on the day. And then we cut it together and color correct it all to feel like it's a movie, but it reminds you of a real photographed movie. It reminds you exactly of any movie you've ever seen before, especially a live action one. And so when you're watching the film, it feels like this is a conventionally filmed movie, and then I stop thinking about that and I just look at the story, and I look at the boy and his trials and tribulations, and I accept the film on a different level than if I knew it was all animated, if it was all larger than life, it was all magical. It has a patina that you just never really leap into because you can't really relate to it. You can only really relate to real life. So. And they're all less than perfect, and you do have to make focus decisions. You have to say, well, drama-wise, why would we be focused on you instead of the background? Maybe you said something, but the reaction's more interesting, and that's another tool in your arsenal to do all that sort of stuff. So you need to do all that stuff in a film to emulate a live-looking film, and that's that was the backbone of this movie. It feels, or wants to feel, like it was conventionally filmed, including the animals and the animal behavior, and even them talking. At a certain point, you have to give up a little bit of suspension of disbelief. Well, animals don't really talk, but if they did, they would talk like this. They wouldn't talk with a different jawbone or a different sort of, altered to talk more like a person, a structure. We kept it like, this is what a leopard looks like, this is what a panther looks like, this is what a tiger looks like, and they're going to talk the way they would if such a thing is possible. And then I think at some point you just give it up and you go with it, and then you enjoy the film as a character. You're now looking at Ben Kingsley's interpretation of Bagheera and Idris Elba's interpretation of the tiger, and you're into his tone and his cadence and his movement, and they're all, the animators did such a brilliant job. They're all in concert with the character, so nothing leaps out as, oh, it's an animated thing and a voiceover. It feels like they're connected, and that was the fun part. No, actually, the studio was incredibly supportive on this one. It's like no experience I've ever had with a studio where they were so supportive and encouraging and wishing us to push the envelope, wishing us to do things that haven't been done before. A lot of times studios want you to do what we've done before because that's their formula for success. In this particular case, their formula for success is show us something that hasn't been done before, push the envelope, let's make a movie that we couldn't have made last year. Just do that. I think the favorite part is the first time I saw a scene come out in a photorealistic manner the way I would have wanted to have filmed it, and I got to see it cut together and say, well, I couldn't improve on that. I could not make that better. And it would be, if I could shoot this scene with a camera out in a jungle, this is the way I would do it. And it was thrilling, because now it means you can do that on any film. Now the door is open. You could create anything. It doesn't have to be CG looking or magical or larger than life. It can be, you could recreate just about anything with the fidelity of the old masters of filmmaking.